Ready to turn your mics on. Good evening, Board of Directors, Superintendent Lario, staff, and guests. Thank you for joining us this evening for our special board meeting. It is 5:45 p.m. I now call this meeting to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have our agenda today in front of us. If there aren't any changes, I would entertain a motion to adopt the agenda. So moved. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay. All in favor of adopting the agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. The next item on the agenda is public comment. Jenny, did we receive any public comment? Okay. I would like to welcome Vince from Oregon School Boards Association to lead us in our board self-assessment. Vince?
Thank you so much, Chair Weber, and good to see you, Superintendent Larios and the Woodburn School Board. Lovely to be with you again. I believe this is my last visit with you this school year. And I took the opportunity to look back, as I was preparing for this, I went back and looked at all the work that we've done together and just how much you have done. I'll remind you that we started this process in August of last year. And we went through, we did a retreat. We've done a series of trainings, worked with you with your superintendent evaluation, which was very extensive and amazing work. So you've really come a long way across the school year. So I just want to compliment you about on your dedication and thank you for your commitment to your district and to your kids. So thank you for doing this. And also thank you for taking this board self-assessment. The education science is really clear about the impact of doing board self-assessment on a regular basis and how that impacts school boards. It is an important part of our commitment to continuous improvement. We hold our superintendent and our district accountable. It's one of our key roles as a school board. And so it's natural and appropriate that we'd hold ourselves accountable. So thank you for taking the effort to go ahead and do this self-assessment. It's really critical in supporting your professional growth as a governing body. So what we're going to do today is I have a short slide deck, but the preponderance of our time is going to be spent looking at the actual data report and discussing where your strengths are and where there's room for growth. And we will leave with some goals. You'll recall back coming out of the retreat where I identified some development goals that you wanted to work on that you've done this year. You've done a remarkable job of identifying those key actions that you wanted to take and you have executed on those. And so we're going to kind of start that process again with this board self-assessment. So we'll walk away with some roughed out goals that you want to work on next year, which may involve me, but probably not. Some of it you'll be able to do on your own. Any questions on what we're going to work on? Okay, then let me share my screen. Sharing screen. I'm going to share the whole thing because we're going to be displaying lots of stuff here. Good. Okay. So cover slide, we don't care about that. This is your school district, by the way. So the way I do this is there's this wonderful website that has the school district boundaries for all districts in Oregon. What I do is I look at your district and then I go to Google Earth and then I try to aim the camera so it encompasses most or all of your school districts. So this is what your school district looks like.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, with Woodburn there, the Woodburn proper, in the foreground, and then the other parts there in the distance. So, all right. So, okay, let's start with the prompt question. What does board self-evaluation mean to you? I kind of gave it away, but I mean, what does it mean to you?
For me, it's identifying areas that I need to improve on, where I could improve.
Sure.
Yeah, for me, I think it's like reflecting over the year and then kind of the same thing, figuring out like, where can we improve? Where do we go? How do we do things better? And developing, into where we want to be at.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like looking in the mirror and really dissecting what's in front and how we can improve.
yeah.
Couple of things. One, for me, it's the strengths and, opportunities as a team and as an individual. And then also, it's difficult to know and plan a direction or set new goals if you haven't had it or set the time to really reflect on what you've been able to do, and also just have that as a starting point for, again, the next set.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this experience can be a little odd. I mean, when we do a professional evaluation, we see someone who's in a supervisory position and, evaluating a subordinate. You do this with the superintendent. But with school boards, you're self-evaluating, and that's by design, it's intentional. And the reason for that is because no one knows what you do. You didn't know what school boarding was until you sat down and started doing it yourself. That's because there just really isn't common knowledge. If there was an independent body that could evaluate you, we would probably do it, but there really isn't. And so self-evaluation is kind of the best way to do it. The upside is that you're a governing body, you're a group, so we have multiple perspectives. It's the advantage of having a board is that you have people with different experiences, different values, that can come to the table and provide that input. All right, let's see. Oh, I have a slide that tells us, well, we want to measure your effectiveness. We know what the qualities of effective boards are. We know that from the education science, so we want to measure that. But it also commits your commitment to your own accountability. You're holding yourselves accountable, which builds your moral authority to govern. If we don't hold ourselves accountable, how can we hold anybody else accountable? Builds trust, respect, and communication, and improves relationships. You might have heard the saying, if the board gets it wrong that night, it's in classrooms the next day. Well, the opposite is true. If you get it right that night, it's in classrooms the next day. This is a public meeting. It's being recorded. And so your constituents are going to watch it on YouTube. We might have some online with us right now. You're sending a message that you're committed to your own excellence. And that sends a message throughout your organization. And just like Ryan said, well, multiple of you said, allows for planning for future professional development. Is that we're always sharpening the blade. We're always getting better. There is no school board in Oregon or indeed across the country that has this completely figured out. We're always in a state of growth. All right. So you have seen this slide before. It's been a few months, but this is just reminding us, what are those key characteristics? And, I'm drawing your attention to the left-hand side of the screen. Those are the key things that boards that have positive impacts on students, that's what they're doing. And this is what the education science is telling us, that we're focusing on vision and goals. We're developing organizational climate and aligning resources to that. We're tracking district progress with data and monitoring, cohesive teaming, which is what the board is doing right now with the superintendent and your administrative professional. You're learning together as a governing body. And then stakeholder and community engagement, building public will to succeed, have as a district. And the last is policy and accountability. So nothing new here, just reminding us that's what we evaluated, what we're aiming at here. And here are the specific 12 standards. And these come to us from Dr. Tom Alsbury, who is a world-renowned researcher in education governance, not just in the United States, but most of his work is here in the States. And he's identified the 12 standards that you evaluated yourselves on. So I forget how many questions were in the survey. It's like 84 questions. It's a lot. In the email, we tell you it takes 25 to 30 minutes, but it probably took a little bit longer. So this is very detailed, and we have lots of information to look at. So I'm just going to dive into some data here really quick. We'll take a quick snapshot look at the data, and then we'll walk through the report itself. So so I forget which page this is on, but you can find it right at the front. And this is your summary data here. This was a little tough to see on the screen. I apologize. So before we dive in here, just take a look. And so to interpret this, these are our vertical bar charts that sum to 100%. You evaluated yourself across 4 different categories: accomplished, effective, developing, and ineffective. And the color coded to match. So green and blue is good. Yeah.
So the way that the survey was worded, it seemed like it was more like, and I talked to Juan about it because it seemed like we were supposed to say like as a board, how, it says the board is doing this. And like, I don't know how some of you feel how you're doing on certain things. And I told Juan, it's really hard. So I can only say from my perspective, how I felt, what place I thought I was at. And so
Mm.
that's how I filled mine out because like, I, you can see that we have differing opinions. So I couldn't really, so I had to do it just like based on like what I do. And I tend to be rough on myself, when I'm doing it. So, but I couldn't like, I don't know what Annabelle does. I don't know what what Ryan's done. In every aspect. I mean, some of
Sure.
it, yeah, I do. So anyway, I just want you to know that when I filled that out, I couldn't do it as like the board, but you seem to be saying that it's like, we're looking at it as if it was only us that we were doing in this.
Actually, it's the opposite. The unit of analysis for this is the whole board.
Mhm.
So all the questions are phrased as the board does this.
Yeah,
We also have a survey that's individual. It evaluates individual board member behavior. We heretofore have not put
Yeah.
that out there. There hasn't been a lot of interest in
Yeah.
doing that. If it's
I mean,
something
on
you guys
some
want to
I could
do, we
do.
can.
Some of them I think you can do, like, because we know what we're doing together, but on
Mhm.
some things, I don't know.
I don't think it was a problem. There's really good signal in this survey
Okay.
to give some indications on where you're strong and where you want to grow. So just looking at this data and understanding that on the left-hand side is 2024. And I think were you on the board in 2024?
I believe so, yeah.
So you and Rosie participated in that data. And then you have 3 new members in 2026. And so you have both 2024 and 2026 data here. And if you do this a third time, I can display three years of data successfully. It gets a little cramped, but we can do it.
So we just didn't do it last year?
I was
Yeah, I
gonna
was
say, we
gonna
have
ask.
2025.
Did you do it last year? Or did they? No, it was the year before.
Is it just that it didn't happen, or is it because it was an election year, or?
So don't be too disappointed. There's even in my own office, we have competing opinions on this. And I'm in the minority, but here nor there. My colleagues feel that doing this every year is advantageous. I think this is a very rich survey. It produces really good information that can guide developmental goal setting for a couple of years. So I think it has plenty of shelf life. Even if we could because the board changed significantly from 2024, you would want to reassess. But if it didn't, we could probably just go back to the 2024 data and take another look at it and set some goals coming out of that.
Yeah, I think at the time, the OSBA changed the evaluation tool for boards, I think right before 2024. And it's a service that you do have to pay for. So I think at the time, because most board members were exiting out, maybe they didn't want to invest. I don't want to speak and say exactly why, but
I don't remember.
I don't recall exactly why, but it's just like, as you can see, it's extensive
Yeah.
and we have to bring in a consultant for it.
Okay.
I'm glad you all decided to do it because it is like a good foundation that you're setting as far as, where you can see where you're gonna be, where you're at and what things you want to work on moving forward. I don't have an opinion
Yeah.
whether you want to do this every year or not. I think it's really up to the board and what kind of investment they want to make in coming years.
And this time next year, if you don't want to do this again and just want to go look at this report again, I'm happy to come back to this report and then, chat with you guys on what you did over next year. I'm trying to think into the future here and help you come up with another set of development goals and I don't think we'd have to bill for that. That would be fine. So that's a year from now. So looking at this data, just, and looking at these categories, what do you see? What's the differences you see across years? And what are you seeing? Where are you rating yourself high and where do you see room for growth?
Well, it looks like we were much harder on ourselves in 26 than we were in 24. I think in most categories, we've decreased
Yes.
from that evaluation.
Yes, because like Debbie said, I tend to be more on the critiqueful side as well. But at the same time, I also want to say that the way I also looked at it is we're all new. And so even if I rated
point.
developing at almost across, it wasn't completely across, but for the most part, almost all across, I didn't see it as a bad thing because we are coming in.
And that's kind of what I said to Juan too. I said, because for a lot of it, it's going to be development because this is
Yeah.
our first year. And like,
Oh.
we don't feel that we're totally effective or that we've accomplished that because we're just kind of getting our feet wet. And there are things we've learned to realize like, yikes, we're not there yet,
Mhm.
So yeah, that's kind of me too. So it's good to hear that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I saw this as like the starting point of, where we are, where we could be, not necessarily where we've been.
Yeah,
But it might be
it's hard
different
to-
for you because you've been on the board for like, what, 2 years plus?
But no, I mean, that was my initial reaction was that you can't, it's kind of apples to oranges.
Yeah,
Because of,
it really is.
but, well, I mean, not completely, but.
I
so
think that we, on the
anyways,
first one, we were higher up on the effective than they were on that. I mean, even with their effective and their accomplished, they were, most of the board in 24 felt like they were developing where we're kind of 50-50. But on the other ones, yeah, it is like all over the place.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's what I saw immediately when
Mhm.
I saw this summary data. I was like, oh, this board has high expectations for itself.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And
like that.
largely because I've walked with you this year, so I know how you show up in the room. And we'll talk more about that. We'll get into specifics where I'll be like, really, this is where you should have rated yourself. So, okay, so let's dig into this. Let's see, strengths and weaknesses. So strengths are areas for growth. So you rated yourself highest, although this is my cheat sheet report. You'll see that there's lots of yellow on these. So yellow means that you rated yourself low. So even your strengths, you're rating yourself lower. So even your highest one, standard 11, I mean, your blue zone is up to about 60. And when I'm looking at these, I'm looking for the green and blue, to make me happy as your trainer. I like to see the green and blue adding up to 70% or more. I want you to feel confident and strong in that standard. And that tells me you're feeling good about that. Probably no red flags. So lots of green and blue, no reds. There's always going to be some developing and that's okay. So yeah, standard 11 is your strongest one and rightly so, it should be. Right behind it, and I think this is really speaks to the culture of the school district, is cultural responsiveness. I would expect this to be rated high, for you to rate yourself high. And then vision directed planning. Even with new, first year board members, this board definitely has an idea of what you want for your kids and what you want the district to look like. And I think that that stood out here. Areas for growth, innovation and creativity, that's one that's a tough one, and that's a new standard. So around at the end of the 90s, in the beginning of 2000s, we learned school boarding through Lighthouse, was the previous iteration of the education science around school boards. And innovation and creativity, that's not something we evaluated ourselves on. So when I was learning school boarding, innovation and creativity, we don't do that, but it is crucially important. So, but you rated yourselves down a little bit on that. You also rated yourself down on budget and fiscal. So yeah, we'll get in that and talk about it a little bit more. And then standard 4, and I know that you guys have high expectations here. I think you probably are better at this than you think you are, but standard 4, you rated yourselves lowest in accountability. And I could put standard 5 with that because the two of them go hand in hand with each other, although you rated yourself about the same compared to 2024. Okay. So another really interesting thing, any thoughts here before I move on? Is this surprising to you? These results?
I think it's curious that some of the strengths are the ones that are rated the hardest or harshest.
Uh-huh. Well, you rated yourself hard across the board. So you definitely have high expectations for your performance.
I guess I'm surprised at how many ineffective, on certain things, but
Yeah.
also I think the budget and financial accountability is because it says an adopted budget and we haven't adopted the budget. yet.
Yeah.
We're in our first cycle of just
Yeah,
Mhm.
getting to the budget. So
yeah,
That was definitely an impact on
Yeah.
mine too.
sure.
we're just learning that. So.
Okay. So another thing that we assess for is agreement. So we call it incongruence is disagreement. So congruence means you agree, and incongruent responses are ones where there's less cohesion across responses. There's less alignment across responses. So you can still rate yourself very low and agree on that, and that certainly stood out. You'll notice in my little cheat sheet, green means congruence, and you'll see there's a lot of green on my cheat sheet. So you guys, and that's a good sign. It means that you're seeing things in similar ways, that the board isn't fractured. So there's good cohesion. You're seeing things the same way. That's good. A line board that doesn't mean we're uniform. We're going to have disagreement, but you're mostly pointing in the same direction. So yeah, most agreement was on standard 12, budget and fiscal, standard 1, vision directed planning, and then standard 11, member conduct and ethics. What standard 11 and standard 1 were strengths for you, whereas standard 12 was a weakness that you identified. And then where there was some disagreement was culture and climate, cultural responsiveness. You rated yourselves high on that though. And then innovation and creativity was the least had the least congruence or the least agreement is what it is. Anything interesting here? Anything popping up for folks? Okay, so before we get into the report itself, I think I have a couple more prompt questions. And so you had a chance to look through the report. What did you observe in the report? This is just what are your observations on your own when you were looking through it? What did you find? Anything stand out to you when you went through this? You don't have to necessarily make sense of it. Just what stood out to you?
For me, I guess it was like by standard when you got down to the questions that, it wasn't just like, if somebody said we're ineffective, it wasn't like on every single thing. It was just in portions of that. So it's
Mhm.
kind of interesting to see the portions of it that were considered ineffective versus those that we were effective in.
Yeah,
And
it
so,
definitely gets detailed.
yeah.
It breaks it. So for each standard, there's multiple indicators
Mhm.
within each of them. That's what these questions are aligned to, are those indicators. Anything else popping out in the report? I don't know what the next question is. You'd think I'd remember these. What themes, what themes do you notice? What is working? I should capitalize that. And what needs improvement? And we'll get into this in more detail. I'll take you step by step through this report here in just a sec. Any themes popping up?
I mean, I think it's already been said that we're a developing board and that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, and then I think the next one is, and this is, do you have any questions for each other before we dive into the report itself? And this is just checking the room is all we're doing. Okay. Well, then I'm just going to dive into the report. What I'm going to do, I stopped my share here and I'm going to get out of my presentation. So I'm going to first go to standard 11 and I'm on I'm on page 26 of 29 on standard 11.
You have to help me understand how to read this graph.
Thank you.
Yeah, so
I was
stack
almost-
bar chart
yeah.
and it's not supposed to be so hard to read. This is actually two charts smashed together.
Is
Is
it the
it
2
24,
years?
26?
So yeah,
Oh,
26 is on top.
Kind
I-
of thought that, but I wasn't sure.
I wasn't sure. Yeah. I
Oh
didn't-
my goodness, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, because I kept looking up here, it's like, is this?
Is this
or
just
it a double?
26 or is it?
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
this is
yeah,
not. This
20
is both
Okay.
years of data.
Okay.
2026 is on top.
Okay. On top.
So if you're looking at question 71 at the top of the page, you'll see that there's a little bit of you have green and blue and then a yellow and blue one, right? And then yellow. That's because there's two bar
Yep.
charts
Yeah, now I
laying
get
over
it.
each other.
I just wasn't
Okay.
understanding
Yeah.
how those got.
I know when I first looked at it, I was like,
It's like,
oh,
what?
it's gotta be.
Yeah, and so we have so for 2026, we have one person reported accomplished for question 71, one person reported effective, and then we had two people who reported developing on question 71.
Okay.
Now I get it.
Okay? So that's how we read the data. But that's not an interesting question. Let's go to the next one, question 72. And so we have two in blue and two in developing. And I was curious on question 72, which is the board and superintendent trust and respect one another. And I was curious, what work does this board need to do to get this all green or get it more green in here? Yeah. Yeah, there's only 4 board
Yeah,
members reporting, yes.
Responses, yeah.
Mhm.
Which makes the 24 and 26 data even more different.
Yeah,
Okay.
right? But yeah. Um, So can I make a suggestion for this survey next time? First, it should save your progress. And second, it should allow you to send your responses to yourself. Because like, honestly, it's one of those things, again, I'm not really sure where On this one,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I know where I put myself, but
Yeah, and I don't know why I entered golden retriever somewhere at my, like,
I know, right?
where did that come into play?
So that's a unique identifier. So these are supposed to be anonymous.
Okay.
So if I have to troubleshoot, I use a unique
Oh, okay.
identifier.
Thank you.
So otherwise, it's anonymous, even to me.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah, but a
attribute
lot of
these
times Survey
responses.
Monkey will like give you your responses. I'm just like, dang it. I kept thinking
So-
about that.
I think some of it has to do with, the evaluation that we just had and how that was in a lot of ways, we were not evaluating our superintendent on what we were supposed to be evaluating him on.
Yeah.
And that was on us and that was on the board.
Yeah,
And so it's doing a better job goal setting. It's being more clear and transparent about what direction we're going in.
yeah. I
And-
totally agree with that because like I even, I felt like that could have been something that would destroy that, so I did have a conversation for myself personally with Juan, because I go, there was no intention there and I kind of explained my whole developing, how I'm a little bit hard, on it. But, so yeah, I totally agree. I go, that was on us because we were developing how we, were trying to get to those goals. And we have actually talked about like starting talking about those earlier. So like, we don't feel like in July, let's just like boom, because, we were also new and then we got the evaluation. It was the first time we did it. And then, oh, it's like light bulb when Vince was talking to us, like, oops, we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
So,
Okay,
yeah. And it might be the concern about that a little bit.
okay.
I think for myself, time and this being the first time around, just understanding all the pieces, how they fall into place and how we can do a better job at interpreting what we're being asked to do and
Great. Let's see. And then question 73 gave me some pause here. So 73, board members represent the interests of the entire district. So 2 reported effective, 2 reported developing. And yeah, this didn't really line up to the way I see the board, but I'm just curious, where are you guys at on that? And is this outcome surprising?
Yeah, a little bit.
It is and it isn't. For me. And I don't really, I think that there are those of us that, it's all about the kids, it's what's best for students, it's all of that, but I think, not necessarily all of us are, I don't know how to put it. I mean, that's a touchy thing and,
Hmm?
um,
Well, maybe frame it in terms of what growth does the board need to do to get this to be more green or to
Yeah.
get this to be green?
I think, it's like when we ask for future agenda items or, like when we're asking questions of the people that come in, that we're really cognizant of, it's not, it's not how it is how it is, and it's not how it is in some other state or, or that we're really, following the process for that and asking them questions that don't put them on the spot and that maybe don't even have anything to do with what we're talking about.
Okay. Other thoughts here?
Um, I'll go ahead and say that sometimes and this is where potentially more conversation just needs to happen to more than anything clarify. But when a comment comes up of, reflecting something about a need in a certain or specific kind of group of the student body and community, but then bringing it back to how that would be impacting or applying for the entire school district and not just keeping it to sort of that smaller group. Um, and, and I say that also maybe as a call out because I don't know if I sometimes do it. Sometimes it's easier when you're observing versus when, you do it yourselves. And so, since I've observed it, I figured I should probably also make sure that it's kind of the thing on relying on the board to make sure that when a comment comes up, um, I think I've done this pretty well with you where it's like, hey, well, this is how it would reflect or show with another group. And then, we're able to kind of feed off of each other in that way. And so being able to do that more, throughout with everybody, I think would be a great, at least start.
So if I'm hearing, I want to confirm that I'm hearing you correctly. So really what you see is the board needs to cultivate the ability to talk about, particular student groups or constituencies. And certainly there are times when we need to do that. But then relating that back to how does that support success of all kids?
Mhm.
And how does that align to our strategic priorities of
Yes.
serving all kids?
To me, it's more like, what is appropriate, conversation, to have and appropriate things to be brought up at specific times. Maybe just a little more education in, when it is appropriate to, like, you're in an executive session and you ask something that happened in the meeting and like, you can't, when you're in executive session, you're talking about specific things and then you can't go back to something that happened in the meeting that we already voted on. And so just kind of protocol, I guess, maybe, I don't know.
But I guess, yeah, I'm having a hard time. How does that relate to question 73 though? Are we still on 73 here? Is that what we're?
Yeah, 73.
Represented the interests of the entire district,
Well, what I'm talking about has something to do with that.
Oh.
It's kind of like what gets brought up at, kind of what you said. It's like to a specific, it doesn't affect everybody. It's just like a specific group or,
Oh, sure.
so.
Yeah.
So kind of like protocols on like how we don't bring up things, necessarily in that particular way, or that might not have been the time to bring that
Yeah.
up, or that really didn't have anything to do with what the person was presenting
Sure.
on, or, so, because it takes us off in a
Mhm.
tailspin. So,
Keeping comments germane.
yeah.
It's like, I hate those damn flock cameras, but there's been no public comment on it. So that would be representing my own interest
No,
rather
and
than
it
the
is not.
community's
Not you.
interest.
It's not you, Ryan.
No, I know, but I
Yeah.
think that was a good example of
Yeah, it is a very
of
good.
something I wouldn't bring
Yeah.
up because we've
Right.
received no.
No, and
It's not,
you've always like, we did talk about it and you called me and we had a
yeah.
conversation about it because you had some questions and that, but you didn't bring it out
No,
in a
not,
meeting
not
or,
in a meeting.
yeah,
No way.
so, yeah. Yeah. So, anyway,
Anything else on 73? I think we'll hit most of the questions in standard 11. So standard 11 is probably, that's your first core, standard. We have to be able to hit on this. So
mhm.
because it's the center of board work. So we'll spend quite a bit of time. We'll zip through some of these other ones.
Hey, look, we all agree on 74.
74, yeah.
74, okay, but that's blue. That's most of the time. And you're carrying disinterested third party with many, many attorneys back at the office.
Hey,
What?
look, we all agreed. Throw us both.
You all agree that it's most of the time, but that means some of the time you're not observe. So what do we need to do to make sure we're observing
I
confidentiality?
can stay at least for mine, which obviously everybody know what I voted on that one. But I think this is where I was dancing between the whole board and then also as an individual.
Mhm.
I know that as a board and for the most part, I'm not hearing of any of these things getting discussed elsewhere, but I also don't know and I'm not like following everybody. So I have no idea and I have to give that probability of, I don't know if somebody else is, but at least from what I'm aware of, it's for the most part, yes.
Okay.
So
And I'm kind of in that same place because like, I feel like, yes, because I have people that come up all the time and I'm like, I'm not at liberty to say, that's confidential, and I actually had a person just kind of really come at me about a week ago and, shame on the board, all this kind of stuff. And I was just kind of like, we have rules that we have to follow and we followed those and I'm not at liberty to say anything else about it. And,
Yeah.
so,
Right.
but sometimes I do, and I don't think it's anybody here, but sometimes I do hear things that get out that, were in executive session.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. But I don't necessarily think that it came from anybody here. I think it's a mystery. Because we've kind of discussed like, hey, this is what I heard. Like, how did you hear that? And it's like, I have no idea, how things get out because we're not saying anything.
So this really isn't a problem.
I don't think it is. I think it's for like, I mean, I feel accomplished at that. Like,
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, so.
So you'll find this will be a recurring theme. I'm gonna pick on things and it's like, this really should be all green.
Yeah,
I was like, really? Most of the time? Come on, guys. I was like,
it's kind of like when you're on a rubric, does not meet, meets, exceeds,
I mean,
whatever.
right.
And it feels like,
Well, I guess that when you're saying most of the time, well, I'm looking at effective. How,
if you're effective,
yeah,
well, I mean,
But
that's what blue means.
that's true,
Yeah.
effective.
Not most of the time.
right.
That's true.
Yeah, we effectively do that. And I guess maybe that's what it is. Like accomplished seems like you did it and you're never going to do it again. It's just like,
Oh,
you're
okay.
done, right? So I think that's my struggle with that accomplished. So,
I mean, for full
Yeah.
transparency, I don't think I put accomplished for anything. I think we're,
Yeah, I don't think,
effective.
I don't think I did a red or a,
There was one.
maybe a
in which
couple
I did,
greens, but
yeah.
But it was only
Goes
because I
blue and
was
yellow the whole
aware
way
there was a
through.
comment that made me realize, yeah, maybe we should, as a board, do that. But there was, I think, only one. It was on the cultural something, one of the cultural.
yeah, I think I had maybe some green, but I don't think I was red on anything.
Or policy, either one of those. There's just one.
But that's noted. That should be
You
green.
gave the same response on
I was gonna
75.
say
You're
that.
effective in not using your office for personal gain. So we'll call that good. Board
Yeah.
members, your board members do not attempt to individually speak on behalf of the entire board or commit to the board. That's green and blue, so we're happy. That's good. Board members direct complaints, and requests to the superintendent rather than, direct complaints to the superintendent rather than attempting to dissolve them directly, solve them directly. So you guys are effective in that, if not accomplished.
Yeah, it should be all green.
I mean,
Yeah.
most of those should be all green. I think it's just that we, like our understanding of what effective means to us
Yeah.
and what accomplished means are like, we're thinking that we're accomplished if we are effective.
So question 78. So this is one where we've got a little bit of disagreement. We have one person saying developing. The board and superintendent agree on the information needed by the board and when and how the board receives that information. Generally, you feel like you're effective there. One person said developing. Is there any work needed here around question 78 and how you're getting information? Any thoughts here?
I know for me, it's like if I ask for something or like or something different, like we got a report and I was like, oh, we'd really like to see it this way, then Juan got it from, we got it that way. So it's like, I think he's very receptive to like any dated kind of changes. So I kind of looked at it from that, like,
Hmm?
it gets sent out to us, but if we see something that we want in addition, then he provides that. So for me, that was
effective.
that
for
was
you?
effective for me.
Does anybody remember marking this developing?
I potentially. And I want to say it's more on what is it that the board is information we need? And because I feel like I'm a first year still, And I am learning, and as I've gone to the conferences,
Yeah.
kind of hearing what are those documents you should be reviewing and whatnot, I felt like I'm not at the point where I can say confidently, like, yes, this is all I need and what more things to ask for on a very confident level. So
Mhm.
that is very likely why I placed it. But those were the
Good point.
key words I focused on to rate it down.
Okay,
That's a really good point, though. You are right.
Thanks
Like,
for that.
being in your first, yeah, being in your first.
Sometimes you don't know what you don't know. and sometimes You don't know what
Exactly.
information you do need
Yeah,
to
exactly.
be effective at.
Mhm.
so let's turn this into action, turn towards action. What work needs to be done around this? I mean, my note to myself was, this seems much improved and getting better. What work is needed here? So what, what work does the board need to, is there anything?
Well, I think for us, like for Michael and Annabelle and I, like OSBA, the conference in November was so impactful for us because like there is where we learned a lot of like, you should be asking for this and, you know, this kind of thing you need. So that kind of helped us start figuring that out. And I guess continue like the thing that the onboarding that we're doing with
Mhm.
that. I think that'll help us as time goes by with that
Okay.
learning.
It's the focusing on our development that
Mhm.
will give us the at least added comfort, maybe not full confidence. It'll grow.
Yeah.
And knowing what it is that we're asking and working with.
Yeah,
And asking the right questions. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, also looking at the handbook and just now that we're at this point, it makes a lot more sense what I'm reading rather than like the first time I'm seeing it. It's like, what is this? To now like, oh, that makes sense. We went through this. This is where we are in the timeline. This is where we need to be.
great. Okay, let's pop over to 79. There's some red on this one.
Red.
Board and superintendent participate in learning opportunities as a team. So I know that there was some heartburn earlier in the year, but I was a little surprised by this outcome as developing and ineffective because you've spent a year of doing professional development together with your superintendent right here. I was like a little, and I'm just checking in. It's
I
like,
think I know where that comes from. And it's, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think I've been ineffective, but I think it comes from, like, we would really like to have Juan participate in those OSBA events with us.
mhm,
Because that way we're, you know, we all went to the summer one. And, you know, we were all there together and it would have been nice to have him like kind of bonding with us and kind of, because we're in that new stage. But then the one in November, it really would have been nice too, because like things that we heard there would have been really, I think, impactful for us to bounce things off of him, like, is that happening in Woodburn? And, you know, what are we doing? And, you know, so we just want to spend more time.
I
Yeah.
can definitely also, yes, that was definitely a biggest part. And this is by no way means of saying that there hasn't been learning that's been brought to us and that Juan has also like looped us in. And I'm thinking also even like the professional development days, those kind of different opportunities. That's not at all. I kind of focused on the part that says as a team, and that means we are learning together.
mhm.
And so that's why I put a lot of weight on the having missed the conference and like the opening in the summer. Uh, and that's where my weight really went into putting it on the ineffective. Because one thing is when he's kind of teaching us or helping us learn, but he's already got it mostly down versus all of us going in as students. So that's kind of the way I read it and took it.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I think that's the first thing that came to mind was the summer conference and the winter conference. It kind of felt like, you know, it's right on this road and then I'm like, oh, this road looks good. And this is what I learned here. Let me go this way where, you know, if we could have just stuck on the same road, then probably would have been a lot more helpful. Yeah.
Okay,
It's also a lot easier than trying to come back and explain what you heard once and are trying to retain versus being there. It's like, yes, that is what I mean. So,
And I guess too, a lot of superintendents were there and they were working with their, you know, with their team and it was really nice to see that. And I think we just wanted that too, you know. So.
Okay. All right. Then I think question 80 is the last one in the standard. And you all rated this developing. The board members come to the meeting familiar with the agenda and prepared to discuss, ask questions, and take action on agenda items. You all rated yourselves developing on this. Rated your board as developing. I'm curious. Yeah, what needs to happen here? Yeah.
Well, you got me on this because
Oh, no. What did I
you
do?
said you always submit your questions beforehand. And I've asked questions in a board meeting that I have not submitted beforehand, and I think about that every time, like I should have done. I should have prepared better. I should have had these ready before this meeting and emailed to my superintendent and chair before this meeting. Instead, I'm asking questions on the cuff, and it's just, that's not considerate.
So Ryan, I'm sure I apologize for making you feel uncomfortable. Understand, as a board member, I asked numerous questions of my superintendent and staff in board meetings. So, I mean, many times. So even I was not perfect. So
That's my goal.
it's,
to get
it
there.
is the goal.
Well, and I
We don't
think,
want, we
we
don't want
have-
to surprise staff.
We have talked about in our retreat about talking about that and because other districts, and I think you brought this up, Vince, like
Mhm.
if you don't submit your questions in advance, then you don't get to ask the question, or you can,
Yeah,
say it, but you're
that's-
not going to get your answer directly at the
Sure.
meeting.
You
but
may
that's-
not, you may not.
Yeah,
Answer.
Yeah.
That's fair.
And I think that's kind of where I felt too is like some people go off on tangents and then like we don't all have an opportunity
Yeah.
just like make a comment or, whatever in our 1 minute, to speak. And then we like Jenny gives us 10 minutes and then all of a sudden it's like two people have spoken, then it's like, and then I have to try to like kindly ask
Okay.
that, that others of us might have questions that we're running out of time.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
So
Oh,
yeah, no, not yet.
Oh.
Yeah, but you put it on the clock for us.
Jenny's like, "Cut off."
Time
He's over there going like.
for, move it along,
Yeah.
wrap it up.
We do appreciate that, Jennifer.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
no,
do.
we appreciate you
Absolutely.
more than you know.
Yeah.
So when you do agenda planning, do you like go through and say, oh, that's a chewy topic, the board's gonna want to talk about that? Oh, we can buzz through this, this will go really.
We give
quick."
everything a time. Yeah, and then, yeah.
Okay. And, but you feel like you're consistently, some board members aren't being heard? How does that? Do board members feel like they have adequate opportunity to speak to agenda items, generally speak?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. I mean, it's just sometimes it like, it just keeps going and then,
Yeah.
like, and really it's then there's only one time I've really had to say like, Michael and I haven't had a chance yet and the time is running out. So,
Mhm.
and they very graciously said, oh, sorry, and moved on.
Okay.
But then I kind of feel like, everybody goes, and then I'm looking at the time. So I did have a question and then I said, I have another one, but I'll send it to you, because time was running and
Yeah, I completely
Yeah.
understand. Okay,
Mhm.
but designing, yeah,
We used to have a report that would run like 45 minutes long, now they're 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So
okay,
if we weren't giving people time restrictions, I don't want to say restrictions, but time limits, then
It was
a
just,
10-minute report can then become a 45-minute report. And same with questions,
Yeah.
yeah,
5 or 10 minutes of questions can then.
can,
Yeah.
become-
And they
that's kind of
really,
what our
yeah.
thought was when-
And they really have been able to deliver a presentation, hitting all the
Yeah.
the points, the high points in that 10-minute time. We gave the high school 15 because they had the alternative school and they were able to do that within that time. So,
okay. Word, may one more time. Okay, great. Our next standard, which one is it? Number 2. Number 2 is, no, it's 6, which is on page I don't know what page
It's
it's
so
on.
cold in here.
It's standard 6,
Yeah.
standard 10, standard 9.
Page 16.
Thank you. Oh, no, I went back to standard 11.
Calling for my feet and teeth.
Five, standard 5, standard 6. So again, strengths. Oh, did I make? Question 44 is where I wanted to start.
Why? Because we matched on 42 and 43?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I'm not seeing red flags there, but I
No.
am seeing a little bit of red here on question 44. The board has a process to review policies for cultural responsiveness and bias.
Do we really have a formal process?
I don't know, that's why I was asking.
That was kind of my.
I think that
question.
was my thinking too, is like, I don't know whether we've so far have specifically, if we have a process, we have not participated in that process.
But
Or
someone said,
by virtue of getting the policies and we're looking at them, does that mean we've reviewed, we're,
unless there's some system that you're using to assess it for cultural responsiveness, and maybe staff is doing that. I don't know. Do you have an equity lens that you're applying to policies?
We use the policies that come from OSBA. So I don't know if OSBA is pre-vetting them in a manner. We have an equity lens that we do, that we look at through, like when we're making this operational decisions. But I think we're trusting that the policies that are coming from
Yeah,
OSBA are like, good to go. And so we're making adjustments to the word choice and bracketed language, but we're not necessarily reevaluating it in terms of, this is,
I would say yes, we do have semi-formal structures for evaluating for cultural responsiveness. That said, we're developing policies for all 197 school districts.
yeah, who don't have our makeup, like,
Right. And so,
I think of
Yeah.
the recent one about, student membership on the board, and that one was, I don't know if we used the term culturally responsiveness in the conversations, but it was really being thoughtful and mindful of who our student body is and making decisions about that process to be inclusive
mhm.
of our student body and thinking about it in those lens. So I don't know if we had a formal process for that, but it was definitely on
yeah,
people's
it was in
mind
our minds that.
as we
Yeah.
discuss that different, policy that's different than Woodburn specific.
I was gonna say, I'm very likely the one that did the red. And while yes, I think we are definitely open and to being and listening to each other and making those changes. So we're definitely open and flexible with that, but that we have a process, I wasn't aware of, and so that would be my rating.
No formal process. Okay. Did someone rate it effective here? Does anybody remember? Okay. So maybe something to look at. Let's see, so jump down to 46, which asks the board ensures district employees and representatives are representative of the values and culture of the community.
I don't really know how
Well,
we do.
yeah, I don't know how we
We don't
that's like
really
a
have
trick
anything to
question
do with,
almost.
yeah,
Gonna have-
it's like, we don't have anything to do with hiring or,
Yeah.
I mean, it's on there and we do it as a confirmation item or whatever, but as far as like looking at data to make sure that we're getting, employees that represent the values and culture, so I don't know how we would even.
And I don't take this necessarily, yes, I agree. But I didn't necessarily also take the question as the being part of like the hiring or how that happens, but more so as I've expressed in the past in the wanting to affect the culture, that being a long game and at this time and how short time we've been in here. Again, my rating.
Mhm.
Uh, But again, we don't necessarily have something that ensures it,
No.
that we, yeah,
Yeah,
so that was,
that's kind of where I was at. I mean, I don't even know, like, I mean, when you hire somebody, whether you can, I mean, that's a hard thing for anybody to do because to find out if somebody's values are representative of our culture and community, so. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes people say anything you get hired, so you get in, you're like, oh, wow.
Do you have value statements on your strategic plan? I mean, those would be the values that we're aiming at.
The interview questions that we have are aligned and connected back to our strategic plan. So so we do that through the hiring process. You know, when we provide the HR report, we do provide the annual department report, some demographic comparisons of our staff to our student body and language. And
Yeah, I don't think we've seen that. No, I mean, because we're, like I said, we're not at that point, so we might not have seen that last year, so.
Right.
it was in the, I know it was only a couple slides, but it
Yeah.
was in the November report that HR
Oh.
provided back in November. But it's been some time. But if it's a priority for the board, we could, make that an ongoing update.
Yeah.
Question, I don't know if this is appropriate time, but can you example what that looks like for
Yeah.
boards to do that? And same with question 44, like when OSB does kind of like the trainings on policy update, I've never actually really heard, oh, here's a way that a board can make sure that when you're looking at policies that you're looking through an equity lens, or like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so I mean, frequently we see district staff using equity lens, but it's pretty rare. The board is pretty rare that uses an equity lens in their sessions. So that would be, or a decision-making lens if you want to make it a little more standardized. Yeah,
can't-
question.
I don't fully recall, but this may be Corvallis. Maybe you would know. I
Maybe.
don't know. I remember someone at a conference mentioning that I believe they had a set of questions that helped with the equity lens when they were asking or discussing certain policies and things like that. But I don't remember who, somewhere in that area.
District staff in Corvallis use their equity lens pretty extensively. I have not observed the board doing it.
Okay,
And even when I was on the board, it wasn't,
okay,
the expectation was always there that this would be evaluated through the equity lens. I've never seen the board use it.
okay.
So you're asking more directly about question 46. How does this show up? Well, one, it's using the strategic plan and adhering to those values and having it in the boardroom, operationalizing that first of all in policy. So saying explicitly in your policy that you're directing the superintendent to do what they're already doing, which is hire people aligned to your district values. And then having informed oversight of that. So you got a report in November and asking, how do we ensure these things? How do we make sure that we're getting the highest quality people that are aligned to serving all our kids? Asking questions like that. That's how boards do that. And that communicates to the superintendent and staff that that's something that you care about, that you're paying attention to it. And I captured that here. I mean, there's some mechanisms, and I think you guys are starting strategic planning soon. You're in process now. So a lot of the stuff can come up in that as well. I want to pop down to 48. You asked me, you mentioned another question. There was survey question. It was 46 and one other.
44.
Just the one
40.
that we're curious of how it's worked out.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
Like, they
yeah, they would use an equity lens. So they would go through a work session. And I mean, we're not going to use this on everything. That would really bog things down. Staff are going to do that work. But if you're going to do transformational policy development, say you wanted to take up like a transgender policy, maybe you already have one. But if you didn't and you wanted to take that up, shooting whatever language you have through an equity lens would be important. Make sure that's informed that way. And then 48, this is, again, the board ensures the superintendent holds all employees accountable for high standards and expectations for each and every student. But this is related to this conversation that we're having is of systems of accountability where you're not directly involved, but you're setting the expectation that there are mechanisms that are happening and that you're an informed oversight of that. Does that make sense? So maybe expanding on that report you got in November from HR, maybe going a little bit deeper in that conversation around that. Because again, we're seeing that same pattern where we have one person saying ineffective, another person saying effective, and then two saying developing, which means there's not alignment of, you're not seeing this.
Like,
all
how do
the
you
same.
measure that though? I mean, like, if we ask Juan to show us how employees are holding them accountable for high standards and expectations, like, how is that articulated out to us? I mean, I guess I'm not understanding because, I mean, there's probably some that hold kids to higher standards than others do, you know, and stuff like that. So how do you say, well, we got 50%, you know, or just like, I guess I'm not really understanding how we ensure that of Juan, you know, through Juan, like how, because this is once they're in the classroom and like they're in front of their kids and like, you know, we're seeing that, you know, them in action and like that they're making sure those kids learn to the highest, you know, level and have really high expectations for them. But how do we know that?
Yeah, I see that in two channels. One, I mean, if I was going to have a conversation with the superintendent or a district staff about that, of course, there's an HR component to this.
Mhm.
What does our evaluation system look like? How do we evaluate teachers? You know, what does that look like? Maybe get a look at the rubric, and so that you have that understanding. And then there's a teaching and learning component to this. How do we know that our teachers are teaching to the standards? You know, are they using curriculum to fidelity? And so those questions are in, again, that's about informed oversight and getting those reports into the boardroom. And a lot of this is, I don't want to say it's complaint based. It's if there is a problem, the board's attention is like a spotlight. And so it's narrow in scope but it's very bright. So we're steering it around.
Mhm. I mean, I know that when we do our school visits, I mean, we can see it in action,
Mhm.
but we only usually see maybe 4 or 5 classrooms, you know, but so there is like very much before our eyes, like what teachers' expectations and what they're doing, you know, and we could see that. But like I said, we see very few when, you know, when we go. So, I mean, that wouldn't be a really good way for us to judge because we're not judging. I mean, we're not judging, but we're not seeing everybody in action. We're just seeing specific teachers in action.
It's not uncommon for school boards to get recruitment and retention reports where you talk about these topics. It's like, how are we recruiting people? What are our retention problems? Sometimes you're seeing climate survey data. Sometimes you're seeing exit survey data if you do them, or exit interviews. You know, and you're not going to see the data. I mean, the superintendent's not going to give you the data for that, and they shouldn't because it's going to be individuals. But they'll roll those themes up and say, these are the challenges we're dealing with.
Good idea.
And sometimes there'll be an ask coming with that. And then, of course, as board members, we want to ask superintendent and staff, what's your biggest challenge here? How can we support you? The
retention and the exit survey data that that we gather. I'm really proud of our retention. I'm just gonna call it out right now and how it's the turnover rate has decreased over the past 3 years coming out of COVID, to only 7%,
Yeah.
which is
Wow,
well below the
that's
state
cool.
average. Yeah, so our retention rates are really strong. I know it's not a report on that, but I was like, yeah, I'm gonna shine a little spot.
There you
Yeah.
go.
on that.
If I remember, I think there's even a stat where some had left Woodburn but didn't continue teaching.
Yeah.
And so that was like its whole separate
Yeah.
thing as well. And they're doing something else now. So, yeah, interesting. But also we see how Juan's holding, or so another way I think we could measure number 48 is because we've expressed that holding or providing quality professional development is a priority for us, and holding teachers accountable to attend that professional development. And so, and I think that we've expressed that as a priority, and I think Juan's done or improved, I don't know if improved upon, but has passed that emphasis on to his staff,
Mhm.
I guess is the way to say it. So,
Yeah, and that's that's a tough one because they are providing it. But whether people choose to come or not, but it's there, so.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's just one way we can measure number
Yeah, for
48
sure.
though, is how effective is professional development opportunities.
Mhm.
All right, anything on this standard?
A short one.
Okay. Chair Ballweber, if you would have the board stand at ease, I'm gonna take a quick break. I'll be right back.
Stand at ease board. Or stand.
All right, so we're off to standard one, which is page, I don't know which page. It's page 4. So, I mean, you're starting strategic planning or you're in process with strategic planning. And
And we haven't adopted a budget yet.
so, yeah, I mean, a big component of strategic planning is going to be, and I'm on question 4. Can the board collaborates with the community to articulate core values and beliefs for the district? So you may not do this directly, but your district staff will probably collect information in and around this in the strategic planning process. I don't know where you are where are you in your process?
We had one committee meeting, but we've got a lot of feedback through surveys from the community and some listening sessions. The next one is on Monday, Monday evening. Board is welcome if they want to come in and
Yeah.
and join, sit in, be a participant or an observer in that process. We'll be in this space.
I'm sorry, what is it again?
Strategic plan,
Strategic plan.
It's the steering committee.
yes, during committee meetings.
I think some of them, they might not know what that process looks like, very new to.
Can you send an invite for that one or add me? Is it an invite?
It-
Here,
Hmm?
yes, maybe some of them participate, but others observe.
Well,
I want to get a quorum going.
Yeah,
so what the board might consider with the superintendent's, urging is to appoint a person to be a liaison to the steering committee. And just walk with that process. And just commit to that. At some point, you'll want to bring board into the process. I mean, because strategic direction, the vision, mission, and then the priorities should have board involvement. And then all the operational components, strategies and actions below that, that's all operational work
Mhm.
that wouldn't be the scope of the board. So I don't know what your process looks, the whole process looks like.
yeah, we would bring a report to the board and then the board, you'll bring it in culmination as well for like adoption of the new
Mhm. Oh, sure.
plan. But if the board like to have somebody come on Monday night,
Yep.
Well, there's a difference. One would be an interest for just coming to that meeting, and then another one if we wanted to actually have, like Vince mentioned, a liaison, that's like the formally kind of appointed person.
it's been in the board promises, but we haven't had a conversation.
Yeah.
Like this.
Yeah, and I don't want to insert myself. If the steering committee's doing different work or doing operational work, then it might not be the right fit.
Right now, we're engaged in talking about mission, vision, values.
Okay, yeah, then that's something you would want the board involved with potentially. Yeah, and so looking at, this is standard 1 is, again, one of those core standards. So standard 11 is definitely a core standard. Vision directed planning. One of the core roles of the board is setting a vision for what's possible for your kids in your school district. And so your involvement in the planning process is important. So, so board collaborates with the community to articulate core values and beliefs in the district. The superintendent just shared that they're already, collecting information from community. And often that's the case, is that district staff are the ones that are actually doing the legwork of collecting the information.
Right.
It's you're setting the expectation that that is going to happen. And that you're hearing from community. Surveys is just one way of doing that. There's lots of different ways of doing that work. You rated yourselves developing here, and from the sounds of it, yeah, we're not clear where the board is going to fit into that planning process. So that looks like an area of growth here. Question 5. Board members can clearly articulate the vision and strategic goals of the district. One person said effective here, and the rest of you said developing. I was just curious why you rated it lower. You seem, I've seen, I mean, I have your strategic plan in your dossier here. And it's on the wall. So I don't know, does the board not use the strategic plan, the current strategic plan?
Yeah.
You do?
Well,
I mean, that was my apprehension, but, or what I thought, but you rated yourself, three of you rated yourselves, developing here.
When I looked at this, my head was like, I know where to go and like, where the documents are, but I don't know it by heart. And that's kind of where I was like, it's developed.
Okay.
articulated.
Yeah.
The clearly articulate part, yeah.
And I was probably the one that said effective because having worked here,
Yeah.
like that's what, that's always what we went
Yeah.
through, so. But I would be probably be in the same thing if I mean, we got them at like the welcome back, we'd get them and, we always had them available to us and, kept them on our walls or whatever, so.
Great.
I think, like, you're right, the articulating, but I think that we do follow it, like when we set our goals and stuff like that with, what the beliefs and the vision is, so.
Okay. So it sounds like there's some work here, that's something that you should have a fairly intimate understanding of, and that you should be making decisions on the work that you do based on those priorities. There's a lot of things you can do, but you want to do things that are aligned to those priorities. Question 6, collaborates with the superintendent to develop long-range strategic goals for improving district learning. It sounds like you're getting there. One of you marked effective, the rest of you were developing. So that lines up with the conversation that we're having. Board regularly monitors the progress of strategic goals focused on improving student learning. Oh, so 2 of you marked effective and 2 developing. It's on, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this because, and I'm on question 7.
I mean, part of my response on that one, even though I couldn't write anything, was really, we monitor it because of the superintendent. He's the one that's bringing it to us, not that we're necessarily going out and, seeking it out more ourselves, but I can't remember which one I rated it there.
And that's kind of for me too, is like, we have that goals that are aligned to the, to the vision. And
Mhm.
when Juan brings us the reports, like with the test scores, which, to reach those goals, that's kind of why I felt like that, yeah, we're pretty effective in that because we're always looking at that. And then if we don't understand something or we need more, we're asking for that and
Mhm.
continue to monitor that, or we don't see something, they're like, oh, we had this last time, and really keeping track of that. So.
Okay. Any other thoughts on this particular question?
Yeah, I think we're effective at it. I mean, we get regular updates from all of those, all the school principals.
Yeah,
We're constantly being provided with the new STAR data or whatever testing it is, so.
So what I'm hearing is that there's maybe, Annabelle, what, if I'm hearing you correctly, you might have marked that developing, and that's because
No.
there's not a clear plan on
I
the,
actually marked it effective, and I said because of the superintendent. I took screenshots for the ones I knew I was gonna come up and,
oh, okay.
so I did actually mark that one effective, and I said because of the superintendent. So that's funny.
Hmm.
I was ready for some of them.
Okay.
This time I was not the low one.
So that's, but actually effective. And that more aligns with my perception. You guys have been steadily consuming data all year long, it seems like. So I was a little surprised to see that. Okay. Still in standard 1, question 8. I don't have any notes there. What is it? You have not adopted a budget, so it would be hard to mark that. Board establishes and models a culture of high expectations for all students. One person marked that developing. Any thoughts there? But then the board promotes a vision of expectation of excellence beyond the present performance. Absolutely, yeah, you're effective there. Okay,
And that is interesting, looking at the 24 board compared to that one as well. We've definitely made improvements there on how we see
Mhm.
ourselves.
yeah.
Mhm.
So overall, I think you're pointed in the right direction. You definitely want to be, want to be doing vision directed planning. You're just still figuring out what that looks like is what I'm seeing coming out of this. Okay. See, what are that? Number 3, number 4. Let's do the fourth one. Let's do accountability standard 4, and then we'll switch to some goals, and then we'll,
Page 11.
thank you. Standard 4, 25. So I'm on question 26. I made a note for myself here. The board regularly reflects on its performance and makes substantive change based on the results of self-evaluation. Yeah,
It was probably me, and that's because of the word regularly, and this is the first.
okay. So this will be green next year.
Okay, well, what is regularly though? Once or discussing?
Well, it depends on which trainer you talk to. Once every 1 or 2 years. I mean, if you do this ritual every year, it's not going to hurt you. You're going to see your data change. It's going to change based on the work that you do. So it wouldn't be wrong to do this every year. It's not that expensive. And I can zoom in.
No, we want you to come and sit in that.
I'm happy to be here in the chair. I love coming in, and it's only a hop, skip, and a jump for me. So, but yeah, we can do these virtually. So, but this will be all green next year, which is something to look forward to. Question 27, the board models a culture of high expectations throughout the district. 2 of you mark this developing, and I'm curious, what would it look like for this to be all green, accomplished? The board models a culture of high expectations throughout the district. Standard 4.
Well, I mean, I think this is done with our superintendent evaluation.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I think too, when we do the school visits and, we're participating with the kids and seeing what they're doing and just like going to professional development and they see like that we're taking a vested interest in that, kind of, and modeling that like we think this is really important. I think that's a good way of showing that.
Mm-hmm.
Same behavior in the, as we presented here in these board meetings. And also, and I know I've seen some of you in some of the other events, but I think that at least for me, because of like being able to show up in that presence, and adding kind of like that these events are important, is another way of not only for like with the students and staff and faculty, but also just like community and families, parents themselves.
Any other thoughts? Okay. Question 28.
Yeah, surprising.
Again, I was surprised by it too. The board's priority and focus are on student learning and student success in alignment with the district's strategic goals. And so 3 of you mark this developing, only 1 effective. I'm curious, what did you folks see that?
There again, I think it being our first year on and, kind of seeing like, yeah, we're starting and we're heading that, we're like, our goals were professional build, development and, literacy and things like, and attendance and, but like, there's so much more that, to increase our focus on and our successes and stuff that, we're just starting to have those priorities and focuses, that, and developing them.
Ditto.
So
Okay,
that's what it was for me and obviously Annabelle, we're sharing a break.
Yeah, I think the foundation is there. I'd love to see it more like visually what it actually is doing. And so that's where I said develop.
okay. What would that look like? What would you need to get this into blue and green territory? What changed?
For me, I think, I'll just use the example of the reports that Juan, gives to us and like where we're at, a very low percentage in literacy and things like that, that what we've made our priority and like what's being done to achieve a higher level, seeing that we're moving in the right direction with that. And I think, that's what's gonna help me with that. I mean, because until, and unfortunately, it's all about a test, but until those are in and we see like that we have made that growth that we're striving for, and made those percentage increases that we're striving for, that says to me that our focus and our vision is successful.
Okay.
As being successful.
And this is board's focus, not
Yeah.
district focus. This
Yeah.
is the board.
But that is our focus is the literacy and things like that. Juan is providing us that data, which is also his
Right.
goal because we're tied together. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Other thoughts on the board?
Pretty similar in the sense of it's a matter of just kind of continuing in how it is that we're doing this. It really was focused on, I think it being that it's our first year, not necessarily that there's something wrong that we're not necessarily doing.
Okay,
So, yeah.
we don't have a full year under our belt yet.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really surprised by that. I've watched you guys for a year now. Yeah, I had the same reaction that Ryan had. I would have thought I would easily mark you effective. Your priority and focus seems to be consistently focused on your students, student learning and student outcomes. I haven't observed the board being distracted. You seem to definitely be focusing on those things. So I was just a little surprised. But I completely understand we're a young board and still learning through these things. Standard 4, question 29. The board ensures budget will align resources based on student learning priorities. You haven't done that yet, you will. So that's good. And you'll do it again next year. You'll have probably the good portion of your strategic plan built out. And so you'll be able to more closely align that. Question 30. The board supports rewards, consequences, and recognition systems to encourage advancement of the district's strategic goals. You're asking me about accountability and how we operational. This is another way that this shows up. You'll notice as the deeper you go into this report, the more you'll find that these indicators connect across standards. So one of you mark ineffective, 3 effective, and 1 is accomplished. So my note here is, what's going on here? And what would it look like for this to be all green? So do you have recognition that the board does?
Yeah, I think we do that really well. I mean, I think that recognition, and I think that like this board has probably brought more people in to be recognized. That, you know, like what we had the wrestling team that went to state and we had the cheerleaders that did.
Every
you know,
board meeting.
Yeah, every board meeting where we recognize and we
Great.
are migrant parent of the year. And I saw it on there and I said, we need to recognize them. And so we did. And so I think it's just really important that, but I do think we do a good job of it.
I would
Okay.
say I have shared this with one. And I'm not saying that, no, we haven't done good. And I don't recall if I was the ineffective one or not on this. I don't think so. But the thing I had mentioned is building up the relationship, because I feel like we see the schools only once, because that's when they give their report. And that's when we have students come up and get recognized. However, there are so many students that are doing wonderful work and are not getting, some of the schools do their own recognition separately and every month. But being able to maybe even tie that as an example with the Woodburn Independent, and that we have photos of some of these students that are doing and showing progress every month, and having student of the months and photos kind of tied in like that, so that we are providing more visuals and recognition throughout the community and for their parents, instead of just this one opportunity when that school district presents, or that they see their photos in the hallway, or if their teachers are doing that initiative. But then it becomes very different where one school or one class might be doing something a little more than another. And that's why I had mentioned that to one, probably our first meeting or second meeting, but a month or two back. But that's something I think we could do to try to encourage and just make sure that we are supporting those that are putting that effort in, and that we're recognizing that as in more ways, or providing more opportunities for that recognition.
Well, I know one of our main goals is attendance, and every single school we went to, they had some sort of system in place that rewards and holds kids accountable for their attendance. So I thought that was pushed me to the blue to green.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I think too that, I don't know, like as far as bringing them here to recognize, that we certainly, if we were notified of when those events could be, like, one or two of us could try to, to be there and be up there and hand out certificates, or, so they could make that connection.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. So something we can maybe talk to the principals about.
So that can also, I mean, we're talking about recognition programs, but it doesn't necessarily have to be doing that either. It could be a staff report, you have a teacher that did this, got this grant to do this really awesome
Yeah.
thing, and having that learning come into the boardroom and sharing
Mhm.
that and celebrating that could be that as well. So lots of different ways that you can do that. Someone was looking for more. I mean, is there anything in particular that the board could do to make this more effective or move it to accomplished?
I like the idea of, if there is any kind of recognition assemblies of sorts, that we can take turns in how and where we show up.
That's a good idea.
And I went to the college and career fair and I talked to some of the CTE and they'd say, oh, we'd love to have you come in. And I said, like, I would love to come in, and just kind of an unofficial visit to, like, I said, they can even do some with my hair if they, the cosmetology, but just for them to see that they were like, I know, right? Courtney will take care of me. But, just to like go in and see and kind of participate, like, I remember the first time we went to Mr. Sanderson's class and he said like, oh no, when you're here, you have to do what the kids have to do. And it was kind of fun because we got to participate in that and then let the kids know like, yeah, these people are human. They're like, they'll play along, they'll do, and so it was really fun. So, things like that and dropping in and letting them know you're going to drop in, but just dropping in one of the CT, Mr. Rogers, subject, invited to come in and the Woods teacher, I talked to him, so. Gavel. But yeah, and so anyway, just kind of recognize what they're doing, like even when you go in and you say like, oh my gosh, this is so great, like, did you do that? That's a recognition in itself, so.
Great. I want to move on to question 32 because I know my time is waning here. The board conducts an effective superintendent evaluation focused on monitoring progress of the district's strategic goals. 3 of you marked this developing and 1 marked ineffective. And I was like, I want to check in here. Are
I
you
didn't know.
guys unhappy with what we did this year?
It has
Did we
nothing,
get something
no, I
wrong?
think like Ryan, like we talked earlier, like I think we're kind of, my bad kind of thing on that situation because we didn't really understand the process and didn't like went into it not really knowing what we were doing and then figuring out like, oh shoot, that's not really what we're evaluating or we're doing it the wrong way. And that's what it was for me at least. It's less like, wow, like we really didn't know what we were doing. I mean, it all came out okay,
Okay.
but at the, when we first initially did it, our perception of how it should be done was not the way we were like evaluating on apples and oranges. So we were evaluating on this, but there were specific things that we should have been and only those things. And so,
And you did. I mean, you were very, very specific in the way you evaluated. I was here.
No,
I
but like,
remember.
I don't know. I don't think I'm the only one that feels like, like we could have done way better in that. I mean, that we need to develop our, our evaluating skills, or know what we're doing, or the process.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's where it wasn't about, at the end it was effective, but how we got there wasn't so effective. So that's how it was for me. I told you I
Okay.
grade hard.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, very much the same, but to your question, if we were kind of jumbled and had we not had the facilitation, it would have probably stayed jumbled, which would have carried on to, I think, next year. So I think it really does, now that we've completed it, we're set up to know once we start setting those goals and then go into that second round and do so more effectively.
And I think for us too, it was really hard because we did that evaluation and then it went in, but you brought back the report and like by that time I didn't even remember what I had written or how I'd done it. And so like,
Yeah.
I think it was like felt like at a disadvantage because not remembering what I said, and not having access to my answers, that made it not as effective for me as it could have been.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Okay.
It did feel like reading a redacted paper and trying to make sense of it. So. Concur.
Alrighty. So you'll be improving on that next year.
Yes, we will, 100%.
Okay.
Just about all of it.
It was a learning year.
And then question 33. So the board regularly establishes performance goals for itself. I was really surprised to see this outcome. We see 2 developing and 2 ineffective. But the board adopted a development plan at the beginning of the school year and then executed on that with the support of the superintendent. I'm confused.
So regularly for me would seem like it's happening maybe on a monthly, every other monthly cadence. But then with the other question, you said regularly would be every 1 or 2 years. And so my understanding of the word regularly was very different from how it's.
Oh,
Yeah,
so.
regularly means like every month.
We've
you're doing
discussed
it,
this more
you know,
often.
Or
than just
quarterly, you're
1
discussing.
year.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like annually, you set goals for
Yeah.
yourself annually, and
Yeah.
that would be
Okay.
the
So
regular.
if it said the board annually establishes performance goals,
Yes.
yeah, we did it. But it
But
is,
maybe, but it's not being prescriptive. Maybe you have a 2-year goal cycle, or maybe
Yeah.
you're doing a 6-month goal cycle, I guess. But I mean, I would not score yourselves ineffective here. And also with it, you might have felt jumbled with the superintendent evaluation,
Mhm.
but the reality is you made the choice to have a third party come alongside and support you in that process. And I think you got an effective superintendent evaluation. You produced a good document. I hope your debrief went well and you were able to have a good conversation with your superintendent, which is the most important part of that. Okay. I'm hoping
it
it
just took us
happened.
a while to get to that,
Okay.
to that.
But it does
Yeah.
take a while to
Yeah.
get there.
Yeah.
And next year it will take a while. It's a
Yeah.
whole year.
I think next year
process.
though, we will have this year as like an example of what we don't want to do maybe, of how we want to improve on that process for ourselves.
Yeah. So I think you did really good work around your own establishing goals and acting on those. I would have marked this at least as effective. Yeah, you guys did just fine this year. Unless I'm missing something and you have higher expectations for yourselves.
I think that is a problem.
Yeah, Jen.
I do.
Can I just kind of give my
Yeah.
2 cents on something that I'm noticing on a lot of these questions where they rated themselves effective, ineffective, or developing, have specific language around strategic goals or performance goals. And I'm wondering, I'm wondering if it's just like verbiage that we need to restructure throughout the school year so that they can identify like, hey, here
This is a long.
yes, yes. Because I'm looking through this, I'm like, they do this. We don't say it, throughout, like when a
Yeah.
school's presenting to you, they're not saying like, this goal is tied to that strategic goal, right? So I think that's kind of the theme that I'm seeing here where there's a lot of red and developing is the word strategic plan is in there. And so I think they saw that and like, well, I don't, maybe not. That's kind of like the theme that I've noticed throughout a lot of these questions there's some literal language that I think we need to kind of maybe when we're presenting, maybe rephrasing. Because a lot of it's being done, in my opinion. And you're
Yeah.
doing a lot of it too.
I have a similar look, wondering if maybe it's because, and I'm just seeing these like for the first time right now, but as we're going through it, and like I hear some of the open-endedness of some of the questions, like regular, it's intended to be open-ended so that it can
Mhm.
meet the different needs of different boards. And some people might be monthly, some people might be annually, some people, some boards it's gonna be vary. And so maybe an opportunity might be to do some learning around these on the front end of the year and have some conversation about like, what does this mean to us? So that again, we're kind of on the same, like, here's how we're like all interpreting this. What do we need? What do we need to feel? And it's great that we're doing it now,
Mhm.
but maybe it's something to
I love that.
launch
do too.
when doing the goal setting and planning. Like, hey, like, what do we? When we say we want to do this regularly, do we want to do this quarterly? Do we want to do it monthly? Do we want to do it
Mhm.
annually? Like, and have those kind of.
Or even when we set our goals, like kind of have that discussion about like, where do you feel like we need to get to feel like we've accomplished that? And so, and then that gives us an idea of like, hey, if we get to this point, yeah, we've accomplished that.
I like that too.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of the board is doing a lot of things that maybe isn't giving themselves credit for because it's just, a different interpretation or like maybe we're,
Mhm.
yeah, the language there is like, we're defining it in different ways and maybe having that conversation in June
Mhm.
again, like what we're doing now, but
Right.
again,
Yeah.
like to launch and like
Yeah.
defining these things in a common manner.
Absolutely. Okay, and then I think the last one, and then we're gonna, oh, yeah, we need to start talking about goals. The board ensures the superintendent and staff clearly understand their roles and responsibilities, creating and supporting a culture of high expectations throughout the system. I'm just gonna say, I definitely see the board moving in this direction, even though you reported yourselves developing. You're still figuring out your roles and responsibilities. You're figuring out your lane. This will develop naturally
Mhm.
over time. So I don't have any concerns here. So taking all this in, what do you want to do? Or is there any specific actions that you think the board needs to start working on?
I kind of think like what Juan said, one of the things is to kind of set ourselves up so that we know, you know, at the end, like what we're going to be, um, what makes us effective, what makes us accomplished, or whether we're still, developing, as we do those goals, so like, what would it take for us to feel like we've accomplished that, so if we
Mhm.
figure out kind of that goal setting kind of thing along with our goal setting, um, I think that would be really helpful to us because obviously we all kind of did this from different, perspectives, um, with different ideas going in, like I'm kind of judging more myself on some of them, but like the board on other ones. But now that it's like you're really reflecting what you think the whole board is doing, just going in with that whole understanding.
I think there's an aspect of it where and how, like, and this is potentially where when we're sharing out, like, how are we moving the mission and such forward, um, of really kind of being able to elaborate. For example, there's spaces where I know I'm doing something, but maybe I don't know if anybody else is, or maybe I'm not doing something, but I don't know if somebody else is.
Right.
And there's little pieces where, like, I know, for example, Michael does more on the, let's just say, advocacy pieces, and I know that he had been speaking with someone, so it's like, okay, well, I'm pretty sure this is getting done, but I'm not necessarily doing it here. So I think those things and being able to share those
Mhm.
um, would be something that would also be helpful, so that when we are rating it, again, it's one of those things where it's like we all have strengths, and are able to kind of contribute something with what it is that we bring. And that's how we kind of fill in.
Yeah, because it's really, like you said, it's really hard because like, you know what you do yourself, but you don't necessarily know what everybody else, is doing. Um, so that does make it a little harder to evaluate on.
I'm constantly learning of what you and Michael are doing behind the scenes.
Mhm.
And I think I'm maybe hearing of, half of what you all are doing and the things that you're attending. So, yeah.
But you know what, like like, I can't attend everything, but like I am retired, so I do have a little more flexibility. And so, I think you do what you can do and that is fine. And, I don't judge anybody less for what
Yeah.
they can or can't do because like
Sure.
there are things that you were able to go to that I couldn't go to, like, some like a visit or something, like it doesn't always work into all of our schedules, but I mean, I think what makes our team a strong team is that we can disagree, we can have those hard conversations, but we can always come to a consensus, and respect each other later, so I think that's a big thing.
Yeah.
So.
So I want to bring us back to action, specific things, any specific things that you feel that the board needs to work on over the next year? This is the
I
goal.
mentioned mine. Go
Yeah,
for
I
it.
was gonna say, just how often are we revisiting our goals throughout the year? I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that could be a quarterly thing.
Yeah. That, I think that's a good idea.
Hey, checking up on those.
Mhm.
Your board goal?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Cause it's like we make them in the fall and then they,
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you what our goals are. So,
Great.
And maybe that's something like we can just like articulate on a, like on a piece of paper too, so like we can constantly be reminded of
Yeah.
what our goals are. And maybe just some little things like, how, you know, how you can feel like you're meeting that particular goal, like do a visit or do, you know, attend a professional development or whatever, just to kind of things that fall under those that might be helpful too. So,
Because Vince, next step, just, for clarity, is that the board will develop now board goals from this evaluation for
Yeah,
the
and
next
I-
year, and that could be
I
part of.
mean, and I came prepared with some,
Oh.
some ideas. I mean, I'm just trying to make sure that I'm getting all the input, any insight that you guys have.
mhm.
So I identified four areas where the board could do some work. The first one is really around sharpening the board's role in strategic planning and progress monitoring. You got a really good start on that this year. Clearly, district is already underway in doing strategic planning work. So really figuring out where the board is positioned in that work is going to be important. And then really formalizing your progress monitoring by adopting monitoring plan. And that you could probably start and get a draft one, adopted, but your district staff are going to develop strategic metrics based on the strategic plan, the new one, and you'll want to revisit your monitoring plan based on those outcomes because things will change. But a monitoring plan identifies what information is going to be shared with the board, what is it going to look like, and when is it going to arrive? Because a lot of this will be data, and so it shows up throughout the year, and so there shouldn't be any surprises here. And so what it does is it creates a document that you all can refer to. It's like on this, in December, we're going to get this report. In, February, we're going to get this report. And it's all aligned to strategic plan. That makes sense? So, and it's a subset. District staff look at lots and lots of data. There's no way you're going to get it all into the boardroom. We're talking about 12, 15 different metrics, depending. I mean, that's something that board and superintendent need to work out what those metrics are. This also plugs into the superintendent evaluation process as well, because you'll be tracking on those metrics as well. To that point, number 2 here is build a stronger accountability cycle. So you felt a little disoriented with your superintendent evaluation this year. I apologize. I was supposed to make you feel more grounded. But really, that's around student outcomes first and foremost. So that monitoring plan will help you with that, your superintendent evaluation, and then your own board self-evaluation if you choose to do this again next year. Okay. Third one was improved meeting architecture and agenda design. One, to really plug you into strategic governance. So you'll be doing strategic planning. So really bringing that work into the boardroom and using that as a lens to focus your attention on the things that are most important for your kids. That's what strategic planning in school districts is all about. If we do these 5 things, we know that we'll get better student outcomes. So we want to focus our attention on that. What I also heard from the board is that you want time to discuss collaboration, do all the collaborate amongst each other, and to share ideas and information. So that takes meeting time. We don't get to do that offline because you're a governing body.
Could I add something to that?
Sure.
With the previous board, we had, because I'm looking at this, question 79 about shared learning opportunities, and I think that kind of ties into what you were just saying, but
Mhm.
we would have, OSBA has webinars, and we would have a webinar that was assigned to all of us, and we would discuss that webinar during an upcoming board meeting about, and with Juan, and it was the shared learning that we were all watching the same thing, and we came to the board meeting prepared to discuss that webinar, and Juan was kind of the expert who would add additional context to how that relates to our school district. And I thought that was a really effective way for group learning.
I made a note.
Yeah.
You can also do readings like
Yeah.
that too.
Yep.
So there's plenty of stuff. And if you want ideas for readings, happy to help with that. Fourth thing I have here is improved budget literacy. You rated yourself low on budget, so really just taking this time that, April and going through May madness of the budget cycle, really leaning into that, asking a lot of your CFO, taking some of that time to skill up the board and just really getting clear on how resource connects to student outcomes or resources connect to student outcomes, and really leaning into that. There was also, we didn't get to it, but some discussion of monthly financials that the board wasn't, I think you rated yourselves developing on your consumption of monthly financials. So that's something you need to lean into as well. You should have a good, clear understanding of your monthly financial reports. If you don't, and let me tell you, most school board members don't, tap your CFO, your finance professional, to help you understand those. It's not easy. Those are complex and hard to understand. So get the education that you need to do that. So those were the 4 areas: strategic planning, improving your accountability cycle, improve meeting architecture and agenda design. We talked about a little bit more time in there. So taking a look at meetings, and then improving budget literacy and resource connections to student outcomes. Is that feeling good? Does that seem? I see nodding heads. So what I will do is I will build out, so we created a board development plan last summer. I'll do the same thing. So it'll be these headers, and then it'll say specific things that you might want to work on. It'll be why, a rationale for why, and it'll also connect it to the balanced governance standards so that you'll be able to cross-reference it. We'll go into this report and see how your way you rated yourselves is related to your development goals.
And I would really like to do this again next year because same board members doing the same type of evaluation, but just seeing like now that we know more and like just seeing what the difference is would be nice to see with like 1 year after the next with the same people doing it.
Unfortunately, I can't change the questions.
No, I mean,
I wish I
no,
could.
but I mean like, but we know more about like now kind of
Yeah.
without having gone through it. Yeah.
Yep. All right. I took plenty of notes. I have notes here. If anything comes up in the next few days, feel free to shoot me an email. Otherwise, what is it? It's Tuesday. I can get you a development report by the end of the week. So I'll shoot that to you, and then you can use the report. And yeah, I think that's it. I yield back to the chair, unless anybody has questions.
Does anybody have any other questions, comments? Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
Yeah, really, thank you.
Thank you.
We so appreciate all your time and help us. So,
I'm happy to do it. This stuff is really important. It does really matter.
okay.
I yield back to the chair, and I believe you're going into an executive session.
Yes. Moving on to our budget calendar. Upcoming meetings and district-wide events on April 23rd, the District Music Festival at 5:45. Is that at the high school one? Okay, at the high school. At 6:30. On April 25th, Dia del Niño, 10 to 1 p.m. at the high school. April 28th, regular meeting right here at 5:45 p.m. And on May 5th, work session and first meeting at 5:45 p.m. in this room.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the Dia de Niño?
It is April 25th, 10 to 1 at the high school.
Okay. Yeah, that was fun last time.
I can't wait. All right, at this time, the Board of Directors of Woodburn School District will move into executive session pursuant to ORS 192.6602D to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to carry on labor negotiations. Thank you. is adjourned. We are now call the meeting back to order. Sorry. Thank you, everyone, for your time this evening. I now move to adjourn the meeting at 8:23 or 9:23 PM.